Welcome to Sensitive and Self-Assured. Before we get to today's topic and guest introduction, let me tell you how I know you are in the right place. You feel everything, and somewhere along the way, you started to believe that was the problem. My name is Alyssa, a highly sensitive woman who stopped trying to fix herself and started learning to trust herself instead. This podcast is for the woman who edits herself before she speaks, loses herself in relationships, and still quietly wonders if something is simply wrong with her. Nothing is wrong with you. Your sensitivity isn't a problem to fix, and self-assurance isn't out of reach. They belong together, and this is where the two meet. This is Sensitive and Self-Assured. Today's guest is a self-leadership and personal power expert, speaker and coach, and the creator of The Personal Power Way, a transformational framework that helps leaders and entrepreneurs claim their inner strength, regulate their nervous system, and lead with grounded confidence. An entrepreneur since 2001, she built and sold a thriving salon business before stepping fully into coaching and speaking. Her work goes beyond surface level empowerment. She equips audiences to move past fear, chaos, and limiting beliefs, and to step into clarity, freedom, and the infinite possibilities available when they lead from personal power. Welcome, Randi Halaway.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing to be here.
Oh, I just love the power of connecting with technology. And this, I am excited for this conversation and just so glad that we were able to connect and meet. That's what those two words were combined there. And just can't wait for everyone to hear all of the great things that you have to share with them. And I want to start with personal power and how you define it in a way that feels really grounded and accessible rather than kind of this performative, forceful thing that might come to people's mind when they hear personal power.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just want to start by saying I loved every word of your intro about this podcast. It actually made me a little emotional because that's exactly the mission that I feel like I'm on, is to help people with exactly that. So I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. Yeah, it's a really good question because sometimes you hear the word power and it feels like maybe you're supposed to be more controlling or have control over something. And it's actually the complete opposite. Your personal power has more to do with actually completely releasing control and surrendering to grabbing onto the steering wheel and trying to force this and push that and sacrifice this and all of that. And it comes more back to knowing that you are already whole, already safe, already loved within. Not when you accomplish A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Today in this moment. And to me, that is that part of self that knows that you have access to infinite possibilities, that you are powerful beyond measure, meaning you can create whatever you want. And in fact, you actually are creating based on what you're thinking about. But when you really access this in a different level and in regards to your true self, that's when anything's possible, having more to do with your heart and your intuition and who you truly are. And that's when, life starts to become more fun and you get to really roll around in the magic and the miracles and all of the opportunities of this life. And so that's what I believe personal power is.
Man, that letting go of control can be such a tough thing. And I know for me, I find I become way more controlling when everything feels very chaotic. So when you are working with your clients and you're trying to get them for the first time to maybe embrace this concept of letting go of control to step into their power, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's another good question. First, I like to help people sort of zoom out. I always talk about let's zoom out and then let's zoom out more and zoom out more to where you're almost like watching yourself, from like a higher place, and then start to look at how control has been serving you. So we all do it. We have different levels of it, right? But we all do it as humans, and that's totally okay. It's not about making control fully go away. But if we start to do an audit on, okay, how am I controlling with my partner, with my finances, with my body, with my choices, with my life, with my kids, etc., right? How has that been working for you? First and foremost, has it been adding more expansion to your life and more calm and more flow? Or is it feeling more restricted, more tight in the body, more anxious, more overwhelmed, more stressed? Because typically that's where control leads us. So the first piece is like understanding how it plays havoc in our life, right? That's that first piece of like understanding like that I actually want to shift it. From there, understanding that the only reason why we do it is because there's a belief that we're not safe without it. And nothing could be further from the truth. So then what I do is I help people pull out of the belief that I'm not safe without it, start to soften that, get to the emotion that's underneath the surface, which is typically just simply the feeling of not safe. But when you understand the feeling of not safe doesn't have any meaning, it's not trying to hurt you, it's not who you are. Now it's like the feeling actually can release out of your body. And this is where you naturally start to come into your heart, your truth, your intuition, your personal power. And then the thing is we're creating in every moment. And it's either from more fear or love, limitation or abundance, ego or heart. So everything I just spoke about is coming out from those chaotic patterns that are telling you you have to control. Think, wait a second, that might be a story. Maybe that's not true. Actually getting into what's underneath it, releasing it, and then you naturally fall into this empowered place. When you start making your decisions from this empowered place, you start to get more empowered results. And so that's essentially a high level viewpoint of what I walk people through.
Sure. Oh gosh, man, I had so many thoughts as you were talking, but the one that like really stood out to me was I'm not safe without it. I'm not safe without the control. And I think that thought, it disconnects us from our personal power, right? And I'm just wondering, when you see that happening and you are trying to help these women, kind of reclaim their personal power. So many of us, we come into this space because we have done this work ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like for you when you started stepping into like reclaiming your personal power? And maybe if you feel comfortable to share how you got disconnected from it in the first place and then shifted.
Yeah. What it looked like for me was a lot of chaos and a lot of what I call unnecessary pain. So we all have pain as humans. We all have emotions that we all have to feel as humans. It's part of being a human. We're natural born feelers. Most of us spend our whole life resisting that, which is why we cause the unnecessary pain. And so I was causing myself a lot of unnecessary pain, just sort of rolling around in it, resisting it, controlling, contracting, this rigidity, this hypervigilance, making sure, because I didn't feel safe as a child. And this is a lot of times this happens for people. It's based on whatever your trauma is or wherever you came from, right? So when you ask, like, when did I give it away? I mean, honestly, probably very early on. I don't even know if I can fully remember when I actually gave it away. And then just started creating these like walls and these barriers and these things to protect myself, especially through my childhood, because there were times when I wasn't really actually physically safe in my childhood. And so this is what the ego does. That's why the ego is not bad. It's here for a reason. It's just, as you start to heal and evolve, the question is like, is it running the show, or are you, your true self, running the show? So for me, it looked like a lot of chaos. It looked like walking into a lot of burning buildings, if that makes sense. So, I have been married twice and divorced twice. In my mid-30s, I walked into my second marriage knowing that it was not good for me, but I did it anyway. And that marriage lasted 4 months. That was kind of my moment, if you will, where everything changed and shifted for me. And that was my wake up of like, oh, you've been doing this from fear. And that's why you've been controlling and grabbing and forcing and holding on for so long. But the good news was after that happened, even though it was the hardest thing that ever happened to me, I realized I didn't have to do that anymore. I didn't have to make my choices from fear. And that's when I slowly but surely started understanding my power. I knew it over the years. I would say in my early 20s is when I started accessing it. And I had some moments, to be honest, where I was like, whoa, like wow, I'm really powerful. But then it, sometimes that can be scary too. At first you're like kind of like timid, but as now I'm like getting into my later 30s and I'm like, okay, it's time to take this back. It's time to start making my choices more from my power, from love versus from fear. And that ended up being a catalyst that ultimately changed my life for the better. I created a process that really helped me with my healing. I got to really be honest with myself about why I attracted that, why I chose that. And now I get to help other people because of that process, do the same thing, which is something I'm now extremely grateful for.
I think a lot of women can relate to the idea of kind of being afraid of their own power. It can feel very big and overwhelming, much like the big emotions that we feel sometimes, whether quote unquote positive or negative, we can be overwhelmed because they're just so big. And as a result of that, we kind of shove it down and we don't trust it, which I think is so fascinating. And then after time, we don't even know how to hear it anymore. So it's just, I know that it happens, and we all do it to a certain degree, and I see it over and over and over again. And also it still fascinates me every time I hear someone talk about it.
Same. I totally agree. It is really fascinating. I have found that it comes like the intuition is always there. The heart is always there. That never goes away. Your true self is always there. It's just how much armor has been built up, right? How busy are we? How much of a hustler are we? Because the more we're doing that, the voice gets quiet. You can't hear it. You're moving too fast. You're doing too much. You're too armored up. And so there's no way to hear, hey, by the way, really powerful. You have access to infinite possibilities. You're safe and whole and loved within. You don't ever have to self-sacrifice again or self-abandon or self-sabotage again. Like, what would it be like if you really knew that? So kind of going back to this control piece for everyone listening, if you knew how powerful you were, if you knew you had access to infinite possibilities, if you knew you were safe, loved, whole within right now, would there be a reason to control anything? And, whatever your answer is to that is going to just simply show you where you're at with you. Because I will tell you, after years of doing this work for myself, and I still practice it every day, and after years of helping hundreds of women, letting go of control, stepping into surrender is one of the most freeing things that we will ever do as a human.
As you were talking first, I just want to kind of let that hang out there for a minute. Oh, because that just felt so good. But as you were talking, you talked about the armor that you build up. And I know so many women who go through whatever it is, whether it is something from their childhood, maybe it's a friendship that, things went really sideways, maybe it's a divorce, whatever leads to it. So many women end up in a state of being fiercely independent, and they've put those walls up as a protective mechanism. And so then it makes it impossible to show up, to truly be seen and loved. And so, how do they find that balance between surrendering and being open to it without, I'm struggling to find the words exactly, but just this idea of so many think that if they surrender and be open to whatever and they don't control, then they're going to find themselves too vulnerable and they're going to be hurt and repeat the pattern.
Yeah, this is a very good question. There's a lot I have to say about it. Oftentimes the simplicity to these things comes down to the meaning that we give them. So our society has attached a meaning to vulnerability that it's wrong. Thank God for Brene Brown and her work and her research to help us. Like, I have chills. Like, nothing can be further from the truth. Our power is in vulnerability, right? The next meaning that happens is that, if I'm too vulnerable, I'm not safe. I'm going to get hurt. What if I get hurt again? So there's another meaning attached here, is like getting hurt is bad. So being hurt is a part of the human experience. I say this with love, but for any of you who are trying to never get hurt again, here's the thing I'll say. There is no way you can actually experience true, deep love if you are not willing to get hurt again. It's not possible. It's literally not possible. So, but the idea here is, what if there was no meaning to being hurt? What if it was just a part of the human experience and every single one of us had the ability to navigate it? So why we get so armored, why we think from our mind that we have, and our ego, that we have to protect ourselves, is because we have this story and this meaning that if I don't protect myself, then I'm going to be hurt. And for a million reasons what hurt could mean. The reality is, if there's no meaning to any of these feelings, rejected, abandoned, alone, scared, failure, which, by the way, there isn't any meaning to any of them, then what are you actually protecting yourself from? The idea that we have to protect ourselves, from my perspective, is a full-on illusion that's been created by our society, that's been created by our mind, our ego, to protect us from, again, from what? I always say, from what? And ultimately, it comes down to feeling uncomfortable. But here's the deal. Until you're willing to start to learn how to feel uncomfortable, you don't get to actually be in your power. That's the caveat, right? If you really want this personal power conversation, you really want to be in your power, you really want to attract that deep love, or go deeper with your love, or be abundant, or help the world, or do that thing, or whatever it is, you have to be in your true self and in your power. You're not going to be able to do that unless you're willing to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So the idea here is that if you've got armor, ask yourself why, right? Why do I need the armor? For what? Again, if it's just so I'm not hurt, like, that's okay. There's no judgment here. It's just that as long as you're walled up, that's why the opportunity, the person, the man, the woman, the thing isn't coming in, because there's no doorway. There's no doorway. So on the flip side of this, and I've had to work at this, I mean, after my second divorce, I had to work through this in a big way, because I wasn't going down that path again. That was the most painful thing I'd ever experienced. So it did take me some time. But when I finally realized this was more about coming back to me, making me a priority, loving me, honoring me, trusting me, like making my overall well-being a priority. So now the shift is, instead of putting so much energy into walling myself up, I put more energy into knowing I've got me. I'm a high level navigator. I know how to feel my feelings. I know how to navigate challenge. I know how to respond versus react. I know how to self-soothe. I know how to self-regulate. So I can go out into the world open. Now, I'm not walking down an alley in a third world country at 3 a.m. by myself, because I've learned that lesson. I'm not walking into burning buildings anymore with men who are waving red flags at me, telling me that they have no intention of like actually being in a healthy relationship, because I've learned, and I'm also more conscious and aware, meaning my eyes are actually open. So I can go out being open and receptive, because it's the only way to get what you want anyway. But I'm also, because now I'm present and aware and I'm the priority, I just say no thank you. Either I don't attract those hard things that would hurt me anymore, I'm air quoting, or if they do show up, it's like an easy no thank you. And so I just keep going on my path. So did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. I have said multiple times that there's discomfort either way. So as you were speaking, I was like, there is discomfort in being vulnerable, and there is discomfort in being walled up. Like, that is painful too. Mm-hmm. So we just choose the discomfort, and the vulnerability discomfort, and the stepping into your power that can be a little bit uncomfortable for a while. That discomfort actually gets better and it lessens.
Well, and if you know how to face a fear and you know how to navigate a fear, think about it. You're unstoppable. So now you don't need to be walled. You don't need to be protected. because now you can navigate anything. That is what has actually completely transformed my life. Am I perfect? No. Do I still have stuff I work on? 100%. Do I do it every day? Yes, because this is like a lifestyle for me. This is a full commitment. Like nobody can take me off this path at this point, because this is me and me, right? This relationship I've created here can never be taken away from me. The difference now is that I don't let fear run the show for me. When fear does come up, I just navigate it and move on. That's the difference. That's what changes everything, because I finally accepted that there's not really a meaning to any of the feelings. I was so afraid for so long of being rejected and abandoned. So I attracted a guy, my second husband, who abandoned me twice in the exact same way. He did it the first time, promised he wouldn't for like 2 years, and then did it the exact same way. And that's when at the end I was like, okay, I'm going to have to look in the mirror here. Why did I say yes to this? Why did I attract this? Because that was a me thing. He was showing me the whole time where he was at. Which, by the way, that's what people do from literally day one. Question is, are you paying attention? Are you listening to what they're actually saying? And if you are, there's nothing to be afraid of, because you just listen and you're like, I hear you. I'm going to reroute. Or I'm in this. I love it. And you know what? I'm willing to feel hurt feelings here, because the richness that comes with this is worth it. And I know how to feel hurt feelings. I know how to feel uncomfortable. So I don't have anything to be afraid of. Again, this is the life-changing piece. I remember there was a breakup I went through probably like 4 years ago now. That was after my second marriage. And that was probably the first time. So I'm in my early 40s at the time. So I'm in my mid 40s now. That I actually sat and just felt it. I journaled, I meditated, I did all the self-care that I knew how to do. I started video journaling. I sat with myself. I cried. I just allowed it to be present. And on the other side of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually processed this breakup. I actually mourned it for the first time. My first relationship when I was 16 years old, and I'd been pushing it down, going from relationship to relationship, or pushing it down my whole life, which I'm sure some can relate to. And then by the end, I was like, I don't have to protect myself anymore. I know how to process a breakup. Yay. Now I can actually have a meaningful relationship, right? And that was one of the biggest realizations. Because again, once you know you can face something, you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. That's the beauty of this work.
Oh, goodness. That is so good. And I'm thinking about my relationships, and very similarly, I'm in my mid 40s, and my last relationship prior to the one that I am currently in, I sat down and I did the journaling and I danced around in my home like no one was watching, and I took up space, and I recognized all of the things that I had been seeing all along and kind of been discounting, or that's really not that big of a deal. And I really processed all of it. And now I think this is my forever person that I have found now. And I think it's because I finally did the thing.
Isn't it so freeing? It's like, I don't have to be afraid of that anymore. Like, thank God. It's like 1 billion pounds, like literally gets lifted off your shoulders, because we're walking around with all this weight trying to like protect ourselves. Like, it's like, gosh, if you only knew you didn't have to this whole time. But we're all human. We're all in this together. There's no right or wrong. It's just a part of our process. That's all.
Oh my goodness. This conversation is so good. And if you take nothing else from it, I hope that you take this, that you were never meant to carry all of that weight alone. The armor, the control, the walls that you built to keep yourself safe. None of it was wrong. It's not yours to carry anymore. And Randi and I are just getting started. In part 2, we're talking about the stories we tell ourselves about our own emotions, why the people we love sometimes flinch at our feelings, and what real strength actually looks like once you stop performing it. Take some rest and come back next week. And until then, take care.